So 112.5 degrees is not on our unit circle. But what number divided by 2 equals 112.5? That would be 225 divided by 2. Does everybody see that? So you double it and divide it by 2, and it's the same number. Now 225 is on our unit circle, so we can use our unit circle to help us find it using half angle identities. So this is going to be equal to 1 plus cosine of 225 over 2 all under the hood. All right, so if I go to my unit circle, I find that the cosine of 225 is negative root 2 over 2, but all of this is over 2, and it's all under the radical. So what I like to do is take the top part of that fraction and find a common denominator, and I'm going to do that next. So if we have this radical, it's going to be, if I make this, let me change this to red so you can see it. If I make this a 2, I have to put a 2 up there. Isn't that equal to 1? 2 over 2 is equal to 1. So I do 2 over 2 minus root 2 over 2 all over 2. What I want to do now is combine the two top fractions into one fraction. So that would be 2 minus root 2 over 2, because I already have a common denominator, all over that other 2, all under the hood. Well, now, if I have 2 minus root 2 over 2 divided by 2, it's the same as that multiplied by 1/2 all over the radical. When you divide by 2, you're multiplying by 1/2. So when I multiply the top, it's just times 1, so that doesn't change. But when I multiply the bottom, I get a 4. So all of that's under the radical, so I'm going to give each guy its own radical. 2 minus root 2 upstairs, square root of 4 downstairs. So now, the top part, I'm going to leave it alone. You just leave a radical under a radical. But the bottom part, what's the square root of 4? It's 2. So it comes out clean. And my final answer is 2 minus root 2 over 2, where the top is under the radical, but the bottom is not, because the bottom came out clean. But now we have to decide on the sign if it's positive or negative. Notice that these formulas have positive or negative, and these are a lot easier to figure out the sign. But when you look at 112, it's in the second quadrant, right? And we're looking for cosine of it. So all students take calculus. So is it negative or positive if I'm looking for cosine? It is negative, because that just tells us who the positives are. And that is my final answer. So let's see how we check this. All right, to check this, everybody in your calculator, make sure you're in degrees. Type in cosine of 112.5 and get your ugly decimal. It's going to be a negative something, right? What'd you get? What is it? 2 what?
Negative 0.383.
Keep going. Tell me more numbers.
382683432.
Okay, that's good enough. All right, now everybody in your calculator, we know it's negative, so we know our negative sign is correct, right? But in your calculator, put 2 minus root 2, and then you square root that number, and then divide that number by 2, and it should be the same ugly decimal. Now this looks familiar. They're giving you a location of theta, and they're saying it's in the third quadrant because it's between 180, which is here, and 270, which is here. Does everybody understand why it's in that quadrant? And it's saying that your tangent, which is opposite over adjacent, is positive 4/3, which it is, because it's negative 3 and negative 4, which is positive, one negative over a negative. And when we do the Pythagorean theorem, we get that this side is 5. Hypotenuse is always 5. Correct? Correct? And that's theta. But they want us to find the sine of theta over 2. Okay? okay? Theta over 2 isn't going to be in quadrant 3. If theta is, let's say, give me a number in quadrant 3. Let's say theta is 225, then half of 225 is 112.5, which is what we just did. That would be in quadrant 2. So they don't want me to find the sine of theta. That's easy. We already did that in the last test. They want me to find the sine of theta over 2. So they want me to find an angle that is in the second quadrant, and it's theta over 2. Everybody get that? But we're going to use the half angle formula instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. So sine of theta over 2 equals 1 minus cosine of alpha over 2 plus or minus. Now, in the second quadrant, is the sign positive or negative? All students take calculus, so it's positive. So we know our answer is going to be positive, and we can make that decision right now because we're looking for an angle in the second quadrant. Well, cosine of alpha, if the tangent of alpha is 4/3, the cosine of alpha, or theta, is negative 3/5, because I look at this picture right here, and it's adjacent over hypotenuse. Now we just put that in the formula, so we have square root, we know it's positive, 1 minus negative 3/5 over 2. All right, so I'm going to change that 1 to 5 over 5. Whoever the denominator is, just change it. And then I'm going to change the minus to plus. That's really pretty. And then I'm going to put that 2 under here and put it all under the... So what is 5/5 plus 3/5? 8/5 divided by 2. And remember, I told you that dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. And this one's not going to be as pretty. It's not going to come out clean. So this is the square root of 8 over 10. When I multiply across, I get 8 times 1 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. All right. So then this is the square root of 4/5. And then I'm going to give everybody their own radical to see if I can clean up anything, because you don't want radicals in the basement, right? What's the square root of 4? 2 over root 5. Can't have a radical in the basement, so we multiply by root 5 over root 5, and the answer is 2 root 5 over 5, and we decided at the beginning that it was going to be positive. All right, how do we check this? Well, if you were to put in second tangent of 4/3, you would get the angle, you would get theta, right? So go ahead and do second tangent of 4/3. So to check it, you find second tangent of 4/3 to find your theta. Then you divide it by 2 to find your theta over 2. Then you find the sine of it, and you compare it to the decimal that this makes when you key it in your calculator.